All right, let's talk about a year that really shook things up for crypto, 2025. This was the year the old Wild West narrative started to die and the rules of the game began to seriously change. So check this out. In 2025, a massive wave of institutional money finally started to move in. And we're not talking about a trickle. In a staggering 80% of jurisdictions, major financial players announced new digital asset initiatives. The floodgates were creaking open. So the big question is, why then? What was so special about 2025? Well, it wasn't random at all. It was a direct response to a massive global push for the one thing the industry had been begging for years: regulatory clarity. Let's dig in. Here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start with that global push for a rulebook, look at the kind of messy patchwork of policies that came out of it, see how institutions finally jumped into the arena, what that did for innovation, and then we'll look ahead to what's next. Okay, first up, the global push for rules. This is the moment the world's regulators collectively decided that the wait-and-see approach was officially over. It was time to actually write things down. And when you look at what they were focused on, one thing really stands out: stablecoins. A whopping 70% of their effort went there. Why? Because they saw stablecoins as the main bridge, the key on-ramp for all that institutional cash. But of course, they also had to tackle the basics, things like getting a proper license to operate, and crucially, putting in those anti-money laundering rules that are an absolute must-have for compliance. All right, section 2. Now, just because everyone started making rules, it doesn't mean they were all singing from the same hymn sheet. It was more like a complex, uncoordinated dance. Let's take a quick world tour. And you can see these two totally different philosophies at play right here. You've got the European Union going all in with its huge, comprehensive MiCA framework, one clear rule book for the entire bloc. Then you look across the channel to the UK, and, well, they were still talking about it. Lots of consultations, but no real action, which left a lot of businesses in limbo. And this table just paints the picture perfectly. You see the EU is in force, the US making moves, but still in progress, the UK is clearly lagging, and then Asia-Pacific is just all over the place. Vietnam's opening up, but then a huge market like India is stuck. It really was a global patchwork quilt of rules. So, part 3. What happens when you get all these new rules, even if they're a bit messy? One word: money. Big money starts to flow. Yeah, this quote from TRM Labs just nails it. As rules crystallized, financial institutions moved in. It's that simple. It wasn't about having perfect rules. It was just about having rules. That clarity was the green light, the compliance pathway they needed to finally get off the sidelines. And you could see it happening in real time. This wasn't just talk. We started seeing big banks actually engaging with public blockchains. The influential Basel Committee, and this is a huge deal, began fast-tracking a review of its super strict capital rules. The foundation was being laid. 2025 was the year crypto started getting properly plumbed into the traditional financial system. Okay. On to our fourth point, all this new capital and these new regulatory guardrails did more than just make crypto legit. It basically lit a fire under development and started a technological arms race. The tech had to grow up, and it had to do it fast. I mean, just look at Web3 gaming. The projections are just insane. We're talking a market rocketing towards $175 billion. You just can't run an economy that big. An economy built on people actually owning their digital stuff, on slow, clunky technology. You need something seriously robust. And that brings us to this new buzzword that was suddenly everywhere: institutional-grade blockchain. What does that even mean? Well, it's about being able to handle a massive volume of transactions, like Wall Street-level volume, with near-perfect reliability and security. The stakes were suddenly much, much higher. This kicked off a crazy race to build the fastest, most reliable network. And you saw these two different approaches emerge. You had projects like MegaETH, a layer 2 that builds on top of Ethereum to make it faster. And then you had projects like Monad, a completely new layer 1, basically trying to build a faster engine from the ground up. And it wasn't just the newcomers either. The established players had to step up their game. Take a look at Solana's Alpenglow upgrade. They were explicitly targeting Wall Street-level performance, aiming to make transactions final, meaning totally irreversible, in under 150 milliseconds. That's the kind of speed that can actually compete with traditional markets. So that brings us to our final section, the outlook for 2026. All the pieces are on the board now. The groundwork's been laid, the money's flowing in, and the tech is evolving at a breakneck pace. But believe me, the real game is just getting started. So what should you be watching for?
A few key things. First, consistency. Are countries going to apply these new rules in the same way, or are we going to see firms jurisdiction shopping for the weakest links? Then there's a stablecoin question. And of course, the big one, the tech race. Which blockchain is actually going to win the lion's share of all that institutional capital? It's going to be fascinating.
And look, this is why all of this is so incredibly important. These aren't just dry, technical debates for lawyers and developers. The rules being hammered out right now are literally setting the foundation for the future of digital finance. The compliance frameworks being built today, those are the financial highways of tomorrow. Which leaves us with the central question for this new era. With the rulebook being written in real time, who's going to win? Is it the innovators who move fast and break things, or the institutions who demand stability and move carefully? That is the trillion-dollar question. Thanks for tuning in to this explainer.